You're checking your phone again. No message. No call. It's like she vanished into thin air right after those moments when you swore you felt a real connection. You replay every little detail. The way she leaned in, the way her eyes lingered. A second longer, the way her laugh seemed softer around you. And now? Silence. Your mind races through all the possible mistakes, but there's something deeper whispering behind all the confusion. Maybe this silence isn't rejection. Maybe it's revelation, a test, a mirror, a lesson. And whether you pass or fail doesn't depend on her. It depends on what you choose to do now. Do you panic and chase? Or do you root yourself in the stillness and let your presence do the speaking? A woman doesn't always test you with words. Sometimes the test is how you handle absence. The question is never asked out loud, but it echoes in every unread message, every space between conversations. Can you hold your ground when nothing around you makes sense? Can you lead without validation? The truth is, she doesn't want to be chased. She wants to feel the force of your stability when everything around her shifts. If she feels you're built on her attention, she'll lose respect. But if she feels you're grounded no matter what she does, the attraction only deepens. Most men lose the battle before it even begins. They confuse attention with affection. They think proximity equals connection. But Stoic men, the rare ones, they understand that space isn't always a punishment. Sometimes it's a request to rise, to self-regulate, to return to center. She may not say it, but she feels everything. She senses the shift when your mood starts depending on her mood. She feels when your strength starts to wobble. And in that moment, her instinct isn't to come closer. It's to pull back and watch. This is where the game changes. When she pulls away, it's not time to react. It's time to refine, to sharpen, to double down on your path, your vision, your rhythm. Most guys will try to fill the silence with words, validation, or noise. But the Stoic man uses that silence like a blade, carving out a stronger version of himself in it. The less you chase, the more your gravity grows. That's not manipulation. That's masculine truth. That's power. Every woman carries within her a radar for masculine energy, not the loud, performative kind, but the silent, stable force that can't be shaken. That radar is what makes her pull back. Not out of disrespect, but to feel if you're real. If you flinch, you fail. If you stand tall even in the storm, she'll start to question what she walked away from. Your silence becomes the weight that brings her curiosity crashing back to you. There's a difference between ignoring her and not reacting to her emotional shifts. One is avoidance, the other is awareness, and awareness is rare. When she senses you're aware but not reactive, that you're present but not needy, something wakes up in her. A deep instinct that says, this man doesn't need me to feel whole, and that makes me want to be around him more. That's when you flip the script. You don't prove yourself with text messages, you prove yourself in your absence, in how you carry yourself when she's not watching, in how you speak without speaking. That's the kind of man she tells her friends about but can't explain, because he's not trying to be understood, he's just being. She might not even know why she keeps thinking of you, but it's because your energy didn't beg, it endured. What happens when she ignores you and you don't collapse? What happens when you keep showing up for your mission instead of showing up in her inbox? You become different, unfamiliar, unforgettable, because you're no longer part of the pattern she's used to. She's used to men folding. You fold your schedule, not your backbone. You fold laundry, not your integrity. Letting her walk away isn't about indifference. It's about reverence. Reverence for yourself. Reverence for the space between people. You don't lock the door behind her, you leave it open. Not because you're waiting, but because you're not afraid. You trust that anything real won't need to be chased, and if it doesn't come back, it was never real. That mindset doesn't repel women, it draws them in like gravity. She might test you with silence, with distance, with attitude. Not because she wants you to fail, but because she wants to feel safe. And a man who spirals every time she withdraws is a man who hasn't built a fortress inside himself yet. She's not trying to destroy you, she's trying to feel if your foundation can hold her storm, and if it can't, she'll walk without a word. So what's the move? You stand still, you build, you train, you create, you go deeper into your craft, your faith, your fitness, your finances, not out of spite, out of structure, out of purpose. She's not your purpose. She's a reflection of how solid your purpose is. The moment she sees you still climbing while she's stepping away, she realizes you weren't following her. You were following your mission all along. Her silence isn't rejection. It's space. And space doesn't have to be feared. It can be used. Most men suffocate in it. But you breathe deeper. You fill that space with progress, peace, and power. You let the echo of your presence do the work, not your words, not your performance. Just your essence. Steady, unshaken, inevitable. That's when something switches inside her. When she feels your absence more than she ever felt your presence. Because you stopped trying to convince her and you started becoming undeniable. That's attraction at its core. It's not about being needed. It's about being remembered. And the man who walks forward in silence is always remembered louder than the one who begged for attention. You're not competing with other men. You're competing with your old self. The one who would have sent 5 texts by now, the one who needed reassurance every hour. Let that version die here, right now. Because what she's pulling away from isn't just you. It's the weight of your need. Let it go. Watch what happens when you remove the pressure. She'll feel it. And when she does, she'll start chasing the feeling you've mastered. Peace. Peace isn't passivity. It's presence. It's the kind of presence that changes rooms, the kind that doesn't waver when someone else walks out. You become the calm in the storm, not the chaos that matches hers. And she will feel it. Even if she doesn't return, she'll remember, not because you chased, but because you didn't need to. She's not used to men like you. She's used to reaction, to weakness, to neediness, dressed up as effort. But when she pulls away and you stay rooted, you become something she hasn't met before. A man who doesn't seek permission to be powerful. And that realization will hit her in waves. She might come back, or she might not. That's not the point. The point is who you become in the process. You weren't forged by her love, you were revealed by her silence. And if you keep building, keep rising, keep anchoring yourself in purpose, she'll have to rise to reach you. That's the energy shift. That's the new gravity. And if she does return, it won't be to a man who needs her. It'll be to a man who needed himself all along. That's the real test, not if she loves you, but if you can love yourself enough to let her go and still grow. No panic, no pressure, just presence. Now ask yourself, who are you when no one validates you? Who are you when the phone stays silent? Who are you when she walks out? Are you still him? Or were you only him because she was watching? Because if you can be that man when no one sees, She'll never stop feeling your presence, even when she's gone. She will remember the way you didn't flinch. Not because you were playing a role, but because you became the role. Most men wear confidence, like a suit. Something to impress, something they take off the moment it gets uncomfortable. But yours is different. Yours is bone deep. It's not something you put on for her. It's something you've earned when no one was clapping, when no one was watching. That's why she can't shake it. Because even in your silence, you don't vanish, you expand. Expansion is what scares her. Not because it threatens her, but because it reveals the difference between comfort and connection she expected you to chase. She counted on your need. And when you didn't, she was left with a question. Did I lose him? Or did I never really have him? That's the shift. That's when the game flips. She starts questioning everything she thought she knew about you and about herself. In that silence, your value multiplies. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're showing her that you are already hard to forget. Your discipline becomes your language. Your presence becomes your response. She looks for signs that you've cracked, a story, a post, a message. But there's nothing, just you, locked in, building something bigger than her attention span. This isn't about revenge, it's about remembrance. She's not your enemy, she's a reflection. A mirror showing you where your emotional anchors were too shallow. And instead of resenting the silence, you use it. You refine your posture. You sharpen your standards. You upgrade the mission. And when she looks back, she won't see the man who begged. She'll see the man who evolved. Because the man who doesn't chase can't be placed. He doesn't fit into categories. He's not in the DMs, not in the comments, not in the race. He's in his own lane, building, training, executing. While other men wait for her to return, he waits for nothing. His reward is not her return. It's who he becomes in her absence. The man she can't forget isn't the one who texts late at night. It's the one who didn't break when she disappeared. The one who kept building in silence. The one who became too strong to be a memory and too rare to be replaced. She won't admit it, but she'll feel it. In the quiet moments. In the way no one else compares. Because when a woman senses that your world keeps turning without her, she starts wondering what kind of gravity you're made of. That wonder turns into pull. And that pull turns into desire. Not because you chased it, but because you became the kind of man desire gravitates to. There's no script for this. No quick reply, no tactic. Just truth, just presence, just power, rooted in stillness. The more you resist the urge to prove, the more undeniable you become. Because validation isn't earned by demand, it's given in response to how little you need it. You want her back? Don't say a word. Build the kind of life she has. To rise into, that's the law of masculine gravity. You don't beg, you become, and what is meant for you will orbit around that becoming, or burn, trying to get close. The men she forgets are the ones who gave everything before they had anything. But the one she obsesses over, he's the one who gave himself to something bigger, his discipline, his destiny, his direction, and from that his value became untouchable. So when she comes back, and she will, it won't be because of the things you said. It'll be because of the silence you maintained, because of the work you did, because you didn't use pain as an excuse, you used it as a portal. And now she's the one asking questions. Was I too quick to walk away? Did I misread his energy? Why do I still feel him in rooms he's not in? These are not questions you answer. These are questions your presence answers for you. That's the new standard. That's the kind of man who stops chasing because he knows his worth isn't proven in the pursuit. It's proven in the pause, in the patience, in the power of not moving just because someone else did. When you become that kind of man, women can't just leave, they orbit. Even if they move on, they compare. Even if they date others, they measure. Because they tasted something rare. A man who didn't flinch, didn't fold, didn't fall apart. You weren't loud, you were unshakable, and that silence screams in ways no paragraph ever could. You don't haunt her with texts. You haunt her with growth, with peace, with elevation. You don't appear in her notifications, you appear in her reflection. The weak man needs attention to feel whole. The strong man uses solitude to feel complete. You became the second type. And now, the game's no longer about her. It's about you, about who you've built, about the life you've forged, about the weight of your name when it's not attached to hers. So the next time she pulls away, don't react. Reflect, and then rise, because that's what real power looks like, not the screamed I, the stillness. She won't tell her friends why she still checks your profile. She won't admit how often she replays that last moment between you. But something in her knows she left something unfinished. Not a conversation, not a message, a presence, yours. Because you didn't try to prove your worth, you lived it, and that left a mark no one else is erasing anytime soon. Every new man she entertains will feel like noise after your silence. They'll say the right things, try the perfect lines, offer the kind of attention that once made her glow. But none of it lands. Because you didn't just talk different, you moved different. And that movement? It rewired her standards. You showed her what gravity feels like when it's not desperate. That's what she's really chasing now. Not a man, but a memory of presence. Not your words, but your weight. Because it's not the attention that makes a woman stay, it's the impact. And you, by standing still, made the deepest impact of all. Not because you followed her storm, but because you anchored down. There will come a night where she'll sit with someone else and laugh, and halfway through the smile, she'll remember how safe it felt when she didn't have to perform. She'll remember how you looked at her without needing anything, how your silence didn't mean absence, but awareness. And that memory, that's not fading. That's imprinted. You became the man she didn't have to explain herself to. The man who could hold her chaos without drowning in it. And now that you're gone, that level of peace is missing. It's not in her texts. It's not in the way other men respond. It's not in the comfort they try to buy her with. Because peace like yours isn't bought. It's earned. It's built. And when it's gone, it echoes. Not all storms are meant to be chased. Some storms exist just to test the shoreline. And you proved, in the quiet, that you were never the sand. You were the rock. She pulled away to see what would break, but you didn't. You paused, you pivoted, and you became more. And now every silence reminds her of how unshakable you were. This is the part most men never reach. The second silence. The first is hers. The second is yours. And that second one? It's not an accident. It's strategy. It's strength. It's the realization that she was never the destination. She was the mirror that pointed you back to your own. Now that you've looked long enough, now that you've faced the neediness, the fear, the stories your ego told you, you're not chasing her anymore. You're chasing truth. And the truth is, you needed this. You needed her to walk away, to realize you were walking the wrong direction. She gave you a gift without knowing it. She exposed the cracks, and now you're sealing them with discipline, with standards, with a mission. Not because you want her to come back, but because you refuse to stay small for anyone ever again. That's what scares her most now, that she pulled away from the man who finally chose himself, that she triggered the version of you she always hoped would show up. And now she's not sure she has a seat at your table anymore. That's the paradox. When you stop needing her, she starts noticing you. But this isn't about revenge. It's about revelation. It's about becoming so aligned with who you are that no one's exit breaks you. They just clear space. And when she cleared that space, you filled it with power. Every late night overthinking session turned into progress. Every ignored message turned into mastery. Every moment you wanted to reach out, replaced by reaching inward. That's the energy no woman forgets. The man who used absence as architecture. Now you walk different. You speak slower. You look people in the eye, not because you're trying to dominate, but because you're finally grounded. She won't recognize that version of you at first. And that's the point. You're not who you were when she walked away. You don't flinch anymore when a woman says she needs space. You honor it. You don't chase after uncertainty. You embody clarity. You don't beg for love. You become it. And that shift, that's what separates men who react from men who rise. So next time a woman pulls away, you won't spiral. You'll smile because you've already met the man you become in the silence. And that man doesn't need saving. He needs space to keep building. You no longer measure your worth by her presence. You measure it by your progress. You no longer need to explain yourself to be understood. You speak less, move more. You no longer live for emotional permission. You write your own script. She will feel this change. She might not say anything, but trust this, she notices, in the way your absence feels more stable than another man's attention, in the way your silence says more than their compliments, in the way you became the thing she thought didn't exist. This is the man she'll compare everyone to. Not because you tried, but because you transcended. Because you became a man who doesn't chase, not out of ego, but out of essence. Because now you don't attract her, you attract obsession. She might never say it out loud, but when she feels your energy without effort, when she senses your peace doesn't depend on her mood, something deep inside her recalibrates. It's not about dominance, it's about direction. You stopped orbiting her and started moving like a man with his own gravity. That shift breaks the pattern she's used to, and that rupture is unforgettable. Most men are noise. You became silence, not empty, but powerful, not passive, but patient. And in a world where everyone's reacting, panicking, proving, there's man who can sit in stillness becomes the one she remembers when everything else feels chaotic. You didn't beg her to stay. You gave her space to see what staying really meant. And now that space is working for you. There will come a time when her curiosity outweighs her pride. When she stops pretending your silence didn't get to her. When she scrolls past a message from someone else and thinks, why didn't he chase? And in that moment, it's not guilt that hits her, it's realization. The realization that real men don't chase. They lead. And she wasn't ready to follow. The man she hoped you were, calm, grounded, sovereign, is exactly the man you became the moment she pulled away. But here's the catch. You didn't become that man for her. You became it for yourself. And that's why it's real. Because no one's attention shaped it. Your silence built it. Your solitude forged it. You see, women don't test your love, they test your leadership. They don't want to be the reason you become disciplined. They want to be drawn into a life that's already built with standards. That's what makes them feel safe. Not your compliments, not your good morning texts, but the strength of your frame when everything else is uncertain. She wanted to feel like she could lose you and still trust you'd be okay. That your identity wasn't made in her reflection, that her distance wouldn't pull you out of your purpose. When she pulled away, she was asking silently, "Do you stay you when I'm not giving you what you want?" And your stillness answered, "I stay me no matter what." That's why she keeps watching, even if she never speaks again. Because silence doesn't block presence. You're still echoing. In her mind, in her chest, in every moment where someone else talks too much, tries too hard, leans in too fast. None of them have your stillness. That stillness became a mirror, and now she sees every other man differently. She thought silence would make you panic. Instead, it made you precise. She thought distance would make you desperate. Instead, it made you disciplined. And the man who becomes more in absence is the man she fears losing forever. Not because he begged, but because he became undeniable without her. You're not trying to win her back. You're not trying to be seen. You're simply rising, and that rise, when done in silence, becomes a roar she can't ignore. While others are chasing reactions, you're stacking results. While others are drowning in emotions, you're mastering direction. When she said, "I need time," she didn't expect you to use it to level up, but you did. And now you're not just ahead, you're unreachable. Not because she's beneath you, but because she let go of something that kept climbing. And catching up isn't easy when the man never stopped. There's a difference between silence from pain and silence from power. You mastered the second, and now she's left wondering whether walking away was a test or a mistake. Because the man who didn't flinch when she pulled away is the man she can't stop thinking about when everyone else crumbles. You stopped being the man who reacts and became the man who reflects. You built rituals. You invested in your body. You cut the distractions. You made your life so full that no one's absence feels like a loss, just a shift in volume. Your path got louder the moment she went quiet. You don't seek closure. You create clarity. You don't ask what happened. You know what happened. You rose beyond the dynamic. You outgrew the role of the one seeking approval. And now you're writing a story she no longer has control over. That's not ego, that's evolution. Let others chase her attention. Let others perform for validation. You keep building the kind of life that doesn't beg for company. It earns it. And when she finally realizes what you became while she pulled away, it won't be a question of, does he miss me? It'll be a question of, am I still worthy of standing beside him? You're not punishing her. You're protecting your peace. You're not being distant. You're being devoted to your mission, to your standards, to the man you promised yourself you'd become. That's the shift. And that shift, that's why she can't shake you. Because men like you don't disappear, you evolve, you expand. And while she once knew the man you were, she now fears the man you've become. Not because you're angry, but because you're unbothered. Because you no longer chase what walks away. There's a kind of silence that says, I'm done. And there's a kind that says, I've arrived. You live in the second now, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You're no longer trying to fit in her frame. You've built your own, and that frame, it doesn't bend, it doesn't shake, it doesn't lower itself to be seen. It stands still and draws everything toward it, even her. When a man no longer needs to be chosen, he becomes the one they chase. You didn't build your worth around her affection. You built it in the silence where most men fall apart. That's where your legend begins. Not in how loud you shouted your value, but in how calmly you held it when no one seemed to care. She pulled away, expecting to feel relief. Instead, she felt the void. Because your energy didn't follow her. You didn't collapse. You didn't reach out with desperate words or half-hearted apologies. You stayed, grounded, present, expanding, and every day she stayed silent, your shadow grew longer in her mind. That's the paradox. When you stop trying to be unforgettable, you become impossible to replace, because real presence isn't loud, it lingers. It sits in the room long after you've walked out. It's not made of words or emojis or perfectly timed replies. It's made of conviction. You didn't play games, you didn't manipulate. You just stopped bleeding energy into someone who needed space. And by respecting her distance, you amplified your power. While other men flood her DMs trying to fill the silence, your absence became a reminder that not all men are desperate for attention. Some are busy becoming legends. What you've become is rare, not just a man who can handle rejection, but a man who redefines what it means to be desired. Because now, when she looks back, she doesn't see the man begging to be noticed. She sees the man who never begged for what he deserved. It's not about punishing her. It's about preserving your standards. She's not the villain. She was the mirror. And that mirror showed you where your boundaries were too loose, where your self-worth still depended on someone else's behavior. Her silence was your awakening, and you didn't resist it. You embraced it. That's why this story doesn't end in heartbreak. It ends in legacy. Because the man who walks alone through rejection without breaking doesn't walk empty. He walks prepared to meet someone who never asks him to shrink, prepared to lead without proving, prepared to love without losing himself. You used to fear her silence. Now you cherish it, because it taught you more than her words ever could. It revealed where your strength was performative and where it was real. And from that stillness, you didn't just survive. You evolved. So what now? You keep moving. Not toward her, not away from her, but deeper into your path. You don't need to check if she noticed. You don't need to watch her stories or read between the lines of her cold replies, because everything she needs to feel is already echoing in your absence. That's the essence of masculine presence. You're not a storm, you're the sky it happens in. You're not the noise, you're the silence that defines it. And she knows it now, even if she doesn't message you back, even if she never says it. She felt it. Most men vanish when ignored. You became louder in stillness. Most men try to prove they're worthy. You just became it. And now, without lifting a finger, without typing a word, you're living rent-free in the space where her doubt once lived. This isn't revenge, this is rebirth. The moment you stopped chasing her love, you started becoming your own foundation. And that foundation will outlast any temporary rejection, because you weren't built by validation, you were forged in restraint. So let this be your reminder. You are not here to perform. You're not here to convince. You're not here to win over anyone who's unsure. You're here to build, to expand, to lead. And anyone who doesn't recognize that doesn't need to stay. Your value isn't proven when she returns, it's proven by how you rise when she walks away. And now, as you sit in this silence, understand this. You've already won, not because she'll come back, but because you'll never go back to the version of you that needed her to stay. Let her feel what it's like to lose a man who didn't need her attention to feel whole. Let her feel the gravity of a man who doesn't shift his center just to be seen. Let her remember you, not with regret, but with reverence. Because what you became in her absence is what most men never dare to pursue. You became self-anchored, purpose-driven, magnetic, not from need, but from self-command. She may never say, "I wish I never pulled away," but one day, in a moment she doesn't expect, she'll remember. Not just your face, but your stillness. Not just your body, but your presence. And that echo will be louder than any love song she used to hear. If you felt this in your bones, don't just feel it, live it. Carry this mindset into every room you walk into your training, into your business, into your silence. Because when men like you rise, the world shifts. Comment below, "I build in silence," because that's where kings are made. Not in noise, not in chase, but in the fire that most run from. You didn't just survive the pullback, you turned it into your rise. And that is the mark of a man no woman forgets.